Sometimes, it starts quietly, like a single drop in still water. A thought so small, it should have passed unnoticed. But for the overthinker, it never does. That drop becomes a ripple. The ripple becomes a wave. And before you know it, your mind has turned into an ocean of what-ifs, maybes, and imagined conversations that never happened, but could have. Overthinking isn't just thinking too much. It's feeling too deep while trying to understand everything at once. It's the ache of wanting certainty in a world that offers none. And yet, hidden beneath the noise, there is beauty. The kind that comes from noticing details others miss, from feeling the world in high definition. So let's step inside that mind for a while. Not to judge it, but to understand it. To listen. To breathe with it. And to learn what it's been trying to tell us all along. 1. The spiral of what-ifs. For the overthinker, silence isn't peace. It's a space that thoughts rush to fill. What if I said the wrong thing? What if they misunderstood me? What if I never get another chance to fix it? Psychology calls this rumination, the mind's habit of replaying moments, hoping that endless reflection might eventually change what's already passed. But behind every spiral lies a motive. The need for safety. Your brain isn't trying to hurt you. It's trying to protect you from future pain. When something uncertain happens, a delay, a distant tone, an unanswered text, your amygdala, the part of your brain wired for threat detection, lights up like an alarm. It whispers, something's wrong. So, you go searching for answers, looping the same thought until it feels resolved. The irony? The more you think, the less clear it becomes. Because safety doesn't come from certainty. It comes from self-trust. The overthinker's healing begins not in answering every question, but in learning to say, even if I don't know, I'll be okay. 2. The autopsy of every word. Have you ever replayed a conversation long after it ended? Analyzed every pause, every look, every text that felt off? That's not obsession. It's sensitivity. Your brain, wired for empathy, is trying to decode emotion, tone, subtext, to make sense of human connection. This tendency is linked to a region called the anterior cingulate cortex, which helps you detect social errors and emotional cues. It's why you pick up on micro-expressions others miss, the slight tension in someone's jaw, the pause before they say, I'm fine. You read between the lines because you've lived between them. But here's the paradox. Your gift for emotional analysis often turns inward. You start applying that same scrutiny to yourself. Did I sound awkward? Did I make them uncomfortable? Did I do something wrong again? The truth is, overthinkers don't just listen to others. They listen too much to their own self-doubt. To heal, you must learn to shift from analysis to awareness. Instead of asking, what did I do wrong? Try asking, what might I be needing right now? Because sometimes, the conversation that needs replaying isn't the one you had with them. It's the one you've been avoiding with yourself. 3. The paralysis of choice. To an overthinker, even small decisions feel monumental. Should I text first? Should I stay or walk away? Should I choose this path or that one? It's not indecision, it's care. You don't want to get it wrong because you feel the weight of every possible outcome. In psychology, this is called analysis paralysis, a freeze response triggered by fear of making the wrong choice. Your prefrontal cortex, responsible for reasoning and prediction, floods with scenarios. You start simulating the future, comparing outcomes, calculating emotions you haven't even felt yet. You time travel, again and again, trying to find a version of the future where no one gets hurt. But here's the secret. Life doesn't move because we choose perfectly. It moves because we choose, period. Every decision opens a door, and behind each one is something to learn. When you release the illusion of the right choice, you begin to see that all choices are teachers. Sometimes, the path isn't about finding the best route. It's about trusting your ability to navigate whichever one you take. 4. The noise before sleep. Nighttime is when the world finally quiets, and the mind grows loud. You lie in bed, the lights dimmed, the phone face down, and suddenly, your brain becomes a cinema. Scenes from the day replay. Regrets surface. Embarrassing moments from years ago come back uninvited. Why now? Because stillness removes distraction. The default mode network, the part of your brain active when you're not focused on the outside world, turns on. It's where self-reflection and memory processing happen. But when anxiety is woven into those circuits, reflection becomes rumination. You start thinking about your thinking, a phenomenon called metacognition. And for overthinkers, this self-awareness can become self-interrogation. Sleep becomes a negotiation between exhaustion and analysis. But what if, instead of fighting the noise, you soften toward it? What if you treated those thoughts like waves, not walls? You can't silence the tide, but you can learn to float. And maybe in that floating, you'll discover that not every thought deserves a response. Some just need space to pass. 5. The need to be understood. For the overthinker, being misunderstood isn't just frustrating, it's painful. Because so much of your inner life exists in silence, unspoken and complex. When someone dismisses you or misreads your intentions, it hits deeper than it should. You start to question your tone, your words, your worth. Psychologically, this connects to rejection sensitivity dysphoria, a heightened emotional response to perceived criticism or rejection, often found in highly empathetic or neurodivergent individuals. It's not weakness, it's intensity. You feel everything amplified: joy, hurt, love, confusion. You care so much about connection that misunderstanding feels like emotional exile. But the truth is, not everyone can meet you where your depth resides, and that's okay. You are not too much for the right people. You are precisely enough for those who are ready to listen. The goal isn't to be universally understood. It's to find peace in knowing that your truth doesn't lose its value when someone else fails to see it. 6. The battle between logic and emotion. Overthinkers often live at the crossroads between reason and feeling. You know what's rational. You understand the science, the logic, the facts. But knowing doesn't silence feelings. You tell yourself, it's fine, while your chest tightens anyway. You remind yourself, they didn't mean it that way, yet your mind replays it again. This is the tug of war between your prefrontal cortex, logic, and your limbic system, emotion. Overthinkers tend to have strong cognitive empathy, meaning they can intellectualize emotions well. But emotional regulation, governed by areas like the insula and amygdala, doesn't always respond to reasoning. You can't logic your way out of feeling. Healing isn't about silencing emotion. It's about integration. When you stop treating emotion as an enemy and start treating it as data, everything changes. Anxiety says, I'm afraid. Sadness says, I'm grieving something unspoken. Overthinking says, I'm trying to protect myself. And once you hear those messages without judgment, you can respond not with panic, but with compassion. Because sometimes the mind doesn't need fixing, it needs holding. 7. The beauty hidden beneath the noise. For all its chaos, overthinking holds a quiet brilliance. You notice patterns others miss. You catch the tremble in someone's voice, the story behind their eyes, the emotion buried beneath, I'm fine. You can sense tension before it's spoken, love before it's confessed. Psychologists call this high sensitivity, a trait found in about 20% of the population, where the nervous system processes information more deeply. You are not too much. You are simply wired for depth. And that depth, when met with awareness, becomes artistry. Overthinking becomes reflection when guided by compassion. It becomes creativity when channeled into meaning. It becomes wisdom when tempered by gentleness. The same mind that worries endlessly can also imagine endlessly. Build, empathize, heal. You are not broken for caring too much or thinking too far ahead. You are just built for awareness in a world that moves too fast to notice. And while your thoughts may wander into labyrinths, they are also capable of finding light where others see only shadow. There's a quiet moment that comes when an overthinker finally learns to pause. Not to stop thinking, but to stop fighting their thoughts. It feels like standing in the middle of the storm and realizing the wind no longer scares you. The noise is still there, but your relationship to it has changed. Because the truth is, overthinking was never your enemy. It was your protector. It was the part of you that stayed awake when the world felt uncertain. The part that wanted to make sense of pain before it hurt again. And maybe, after all this time, it just needs your permission to rest. So tonight, when your mind begins its familiar hum, the one that replays the day, the past, the possibilities, try whispering this instead. I see you. I know you're trying to help. But we're safe now. And in that whisper lies everything an overthinker has ever needed to hear. Not silence, not solutions, just safety. Because healing doesn't mean never thinking too much again. It means learning that you can think deeply without drowning. That your mind, even at its loudest, is still a home. One that deserves kindness, curiosity, and rest. So, here's to the overthinkers, the feelers, the analyzers, the hearts that notice too much. You are not a problem to solve. You are proof that sensitivity is strength in disguise. And someday, you'll realize, the mind that once kept you awake at night will be the same one that helps you build a life filled with meaning, connection, and peace. Because maybe overthinking was never about the fear of getting it wrong. Maybe it was always about the longing to finally feel right here. Right now. At this moment. Enough.